The Rockies are making history for all the wrong reasons. They're on pace to lose the most games ever. That record, in case you're wondering, was set back in 1899 by the Cleveland Spiders. They lost 134 games that season. Recently on All Access, sports anchor Mackey talked with longtime Colorado sports writer Woody Paige, who had one big solution for a possible Rockies turnaround.
We are joined by the legend, Woody Paige, in the house to talk about a legendary season by the Colorado Rockies. Woody, we all know the Rockies would be bad. They're coming up back-to-back 100-loss seasons. But this is ridiculous.
I think it goes beyond ridiculous, beyond ludicrous, beyond belief, actually, Rod. It's the most incredible thing I've seen in Denver in my 50-something years. Other than the Nuggets one year winning like 11 games, but that didn't last over a period of years. They actually made a rebound, no pun intended, and came back to being a real team. But you can look in a snow globe or an 8-ball, and you can't find a future for the Colorado Rockies because it's like insanity. That means you do it over and over again and never change anything, and that's exactly what we're seeing in Denver.
Okay, so they fire Buddy. We all knew that that wouldn't help. The GM's still in place. That's obviously got to change. What is the solution? It really goes to ownership, does it not?
Yeah, I begged, and I used to have good conversation, particularly in spring training, with Dick Monfort, and I begged him to go outside the organization. I would say your loyalty just creates over and over issues for the Rockies. And he said that that came from his father, Kenneth, who was a very famous meat packer and had the company that was in Greeley for so long and was successful. And he said that his father always preached loyalty to both he and his brother, Charlie Montfort, who ran the team for a few years and then went into the witness protection plan. Really, he just went out of sight, as Dick is doing this season. And I think they've got to realize at some point that if you look at the staff directory, those people have been with, most of them have been with the Rockies for 10 years, 20 years, since the very beginning. And I'm talking about from vice presidents in the ticket office to people who are in the PR department, to people that are in charge of scouting. And I just believe that if you don't go outside the organization, and Dick Monfort has to retire, I'll put it that way, as the CEO, the chairman of the board, basically the one guy that's running that entire organization. He needs to take a step back and let someone come in who's been successful. I mean, I looked at the Tampa Bay baseball team and their executive staff. They have done more over the past 10 years with the smallest payroll in baseball. And they've been able to win a division, get in the playoffs on a regular type basis, while the Rockies, I was told once by one of the general managers, if we could just get in the playoffs once every 7 years, we'd be successful. Well, that's not even going to happen here. So I think you've got to just make major changes, and the change starts at the top. That's Dick Monfort. He has a background in meatpacking. He was the head of a slaughterhouse after his father turned it over to he and his brother. And I would accept, Rod, if there was a carpetbagger coming in from out of town, an owner that we didn't like, that we could just all boycott and tell him to get the hell out of town. But when you got somebody that grew up in Colorado and understands the people here and has lived his whole life here, that is just infallible and unacceptable by Dick Monfort and the Monfort team, and I mean including his two sons who he wants to leave this franchise to. And I think that if you wait for that, they could walk away today multi-billionaires selling that team to someone from outside, or at least, as I said, bring somebody in from the outside to run the organization and run it in the right direction.
What do you wonder about the motivation, though? Because even with this horrendous baseball team, night in and night out, Coors Field is packed. It's what happened to the Cubs.
But here's what's happened, Rod, over the years. Those are not Rockies fans. I have done investigations on my own, and their season ticket base is about 15 to 17,000. That's less than the Nuggets. That's less than the Avalanche, and obviously a lot less than the Denver Broncos. What you're seeing at the games are people cheering for the other teams. The Phillies and the Yankees come in and you fill up the place, or you at least draw more than 25, 30,000. And yet those people are not Rockies fans. They're fans of the Phillies, and they're fans of the New York Yankees, and they're fans of the Cubs that you mentioned. They're fans of the Cardinals. I was a sports editor at the Denver Post long ago before the Rockies got a franchise, and I did a poll of several tens of thousands of people of what was the most popular team here. And there was basically a tie between the Cubs and the Cardinals. So when you get those teams in here, you're going to have big crowds. You're going to have big crowds for they need, if they want Rockies fans to be there, they need to have bobblehead nights every night for the opposing team. Players, or just have fireworks night every night, because people will show up for fireworks anywhere. They just love it here. And of course, the environment at Coors Field, people call it the biggest bar in Lodo because of the party deck that Dick spent money on rather than actually going out and getting quality free agents. But I'd just like to make one other point in regard to the organization. ESPN has just ranked the farm systems, and that's what they're so proud of. The Rockies believe that they got these young players coming up. Of the top 50 players that are in the minor leagues, the Rockies have one player that's in the top 50, no players in the top 25, and oddly enough, the number 26 overall prospect was just put on the disabled list by the Rockies. That they just are not developing the talent. They won't go get Asian players. They won't go get Latino players. They won't even go out and get African-American players. They have a strict regimen of basically drafting college white players. I'm being as serious as I possibly can, and they need to diversify. And they need to get outside this organization, not only with players, and they've got to be better and reasonable about the free agency pick. The last one they gave $174 million to, and what has he accomplished? The one before that they gave $70 million to in a 5-year contract. What happened with that? He was a shortstop who had never played first base, and he couldn't play it when he got here. So there's so many problems that you can't target it like a bulletin board. You have actually got to just totally wipe out what is at the top of the organization and replace it.
Woody, I want to finish with this, the historical significance. Early on, you mentioned that 11-win Denver Nuggets team. They also had wins of 14 and 17. That 17-win season was back in 2003. That's when they drafted Carmelo and were able to get out of it. The Broncos had the season when they were 4-12 back in 2010, another bad season. They got Vaughn. So what is the best-case scenario for the Rockies? When will they win again? Will they ever win at all?
Well, I'm chuckling a little bit because baseball now has a rule, a new rule in regard to the amateur draft. Normally, if you were a team like the Rockies for decades, you'd get the #1 draft pick, the best amateur baseball player out there, whether he's coming out of high school or college. Guess what? The new rule says that if you're the worst team in baseball, you don't get a pick this year until number 9. So they can't even be at the top of the list. And they normally draft around 4th or 5th because they've been maybe the worst team in the division, but not the worst team when we've seen the Chicago White Sox and the Marlins. And it's odd that the Marlins and the Rockies came in at the same time in 1993, and they've been two of the worst franchises, but the Marlins have won 2 World Series. The Rockies have been in 1 and were swept, but they've been in so few playoff and division postseason games over the years that I just think that once again, if I can't emphasize it enough, and never call for a boycott. I think fans have to make their own decisions. And Dick Monfort once said, if you don't like the product, I'm quoting him now. He said to a fan who emailed him, if you don't like the product and what we're doing, don't come to the games. He's the one who said that, not me. He's the one who said that several years ago. So I think if change doesn't happen here, that you're going to see, and you say, how do you turn it around? Well, you're not going to compete against the Dodgers and spending money. But what you got to compete with the Dodgers is being smart. And that is, I mean, the Dodgers have 3 players in the top 60 draft prospects. The Rockies have 1.
I'd like to say it's got to get better. It can't be any worse, but we've said that in back-to-back years, and it's only gotten worse. The legend, Woody Paige, thank you so much for the time.
Bob, thanks for the invite, and good luck with your career. Mine's over.
Awesome. Woody, thanks so much.
That was Rod Mackey talking with Woody Paige about the Rockies. You can catch All Access every Sunday night on air after CBS News Colorado at 10.